Good afternoon. Thank you all so much for being here. We are so grateful for you taking time out of your day. I'm your host, Riley Smith, and I'm the Alumni and Annual Giving Specialist here at the David Eccles School of Business. This is the last of our Alumni Forum series for this year. So I just want to thank each and every one of you, including our streaming audience, for participating today. We're so excited to bring to you how to strategically build your personal brand. Annie Davis is going to be our moderator. She's also an Eccles alum, so we're very excited to have her today. Annie Davis is the Vice President of Experience Marketing at LifeVantage. Annie brings nearly 20 years of journalism, media, marketing, communications, and public relations experience. She started her career as a one-man band television reporter in Brooklyn, New York, where she was responsible for 100% execution of her daily news stories. Navigating the busy New York streets, behind the wheel, setting up interviews, shooting the footage, writing and editing the story, and delivering it to viewers. Since then, Annie has developed and maintained local and national media contacts and transitioned her talent in front of the camera to telling engaging stories behind the lens. From mentoring girls with the Girl Scouts, promoting Utah as the best place to do business with Salt Lake City's economic development team, to empowering sales leaders to improve lives through innovative beauty and wellness products, her vast and varied professional background weaves the communications expertise and value she brings to any team. Please join me in welcoming Annie Davis.
Riley, thank you so much, Riley, for that introduction. I think I need to update that a little bit. It's a little long, but thank you all so much for being here with us. I am thrilled and honestly honored to be sitting next to these incredible women here on stage. I'm going to do the obligatory bio reading as well before we get started. So to my immediate left here is Liana Kennard, rather, excuse me. I see I butchered it already. You know, we practice behind, in the green room, and it's gone all right. Okay. Liana Kennard, she's the Chief Marketing Officer at the Buckner Company. Liana is an experienced marketing executive specializing in strategy and customer experience. She's a key member of the senior executive leadership team with expertise in strategy and growing new lines of business. Liana is responsible for overseeing the planning, development, and execution of all marketing events and initiatives for her company. From developing campaigns to designing successfully integrated experiences, her passion for solving problems and making an impact drives her ability to work across multiple functions and across multiple teams. A graduate of the David Eccles School of Business and Harvard University, Liana has been featured in Utah Business Magazine, Insurance Business America, and Forbes. Welcome, Liana. Yes, round of applause. Thank you. And next to her is Michelle DeGeorge. She's the founder of Versatile Image. Michelle DeGeorge is a Haitian American from South Florida, obviously living here in Salt Lake City now. Between 2008 and 2012, she ran a family business where she developed the resilience to thrive in the world of business. As a result of the recession, she dreamed of a world where she could create opportunities for BIPOC community, that's Black, Indigenous, and people of color, worldwide to own their own businesses. Today, she's a banker, a performance poet, an economics graduate student, and is engaged in building her nonprofit, Versatile Image, an organization devoted to empowering the Black experience. In service of the Black community, Michelle holds regular workshops at universities throughout Utah, teaching the fundamentals of credit, budgeting, practical best practices on day-to-day banking, and the history of Black wealth. Now, because she believes in building wealth is a birthright, she works to gain full licensure to open her own financial firm in the next 3 to 5 years to open doors for Utah's BIPOC communities. Welcome. Round of applause. Okay, and then on the far end, Katie, you're so far away. I feel like she's so far away from me, is Katie Hoffman Abbey. Now, Katie serves as the Associate Dean at the David Eccles School of Business and Special Advisor to University of Utah President Taylor Randall, leading a re-energized campus-wide U-Career Success effort. She brings a wealth of experience as a career leader, entrepreneur, and business founder. Katie has been honored as one of Utah Magazine's 30 Women to Watch, which recognizes dynamic female professionals with demonstrated records of success within their fields and the community. Through her dedication to building student futures, Eccles school students have earned steady increases in salary and placement, outcomes that she and her team looks forward to realizing across the university. Let's give Katie a round of applause. So before we dive right in, I want to share a couple of statistics that Riley pulled for us here today. And it just, I believe, goes to show the importance of why we're gathered here today to talk about the importance of building a personal brand and how that conveys into the community and everything that you all are doing. So it says here 70% of employers screen candidates by checking their social media. Who has actually done that in this room? If you're a hiring manager. Yeah, right? You can't really get around that. And 43% use it to check on current employees. Don't raise your hand if you've done that. Nobody wants to know who you are. And then here's a quote from Jeff Bezos. Your personal brand is what people say about you when you are not in the room. And I think all of us up here absolutely agree to that. So again, very relevant topic today. So we're going to dive right in. Leanna, you're first up. Think Beyonce. We're told think Beyonce with the microphones.
We can hear okay.
Okay. So Leanna, you've, reading through your bio, you've had an incredible and impressive journey throughout your career. That doesn't need to be stated. But what were the fundamental principles that enabled you to be as successful as you are and build your personal brand?
We referenced Beyonce because right before we came up here, we got mic instruction. He said, hold it like you're Beyonce. And I said, did we have a fan? Do we have a fan? Okay, I feel like a cheater because I brought some notes up because I didn't want to forget anything. I think success is you can define it in so many ways. And I thought after I did a preliminary call with Riley, what were the three things? I love odd numbers. I'm like, what would be three things that I have used or have helped me? One of them is remember who you are. And I know that sounds so cliche, but I think if you don't know what you stand for, you will fall for anything, especially in this world. And so I think of, what are my core values? What are my goals? And where is my target? And what direction am I going towards? And also something, I have had mixed feelings with leadership throughout my career. People often label me as someone who cares. And that can be seen really good and it can be seen really bad. But it's something that I've been noticed for. And again, if you don't know what you stand for, you will fall for anything. And so luckily that one of those things that I have been branded for as she cares has stuck with me throughout my whole career. The second one, so remember who you are. The second one is invest in yourself. And I know that sounds so cheesy, but every day you're showing up for your spouse, your kids, your work, your family, your neighbors, and sometimes it gets draining and we don't really fill our cup. And I always say this, and I tell this to my kids every single day, is you are your most valuable asset. You are. So if you are constantly giving, and not looking at like, okay, what do I need to stay strong and to get where I'm going, you're going to miss the mark. I've been reading this book, and it's old, but it's by Brian Tracy. And I read this chapter yesterday, and I thought it was so fitting for today. He said that every single person should be investing 3% of their money and their time back into themselves. So he said by either education, seminars, trainings, audiobooks, 3% minimum. And he said what you do is that compound learning is exactly like compound interest. So to make sure that you invest in yourself. And then the third is mentorship and partnership. I think even just with our alumni network, there are so many valuable people, even in this room. And I think sometimes we fail to take that opportunity to meet the person next to us or see how we can partner or what I can learn from that person. So I think those are my little three nuggets of, what has helped. I don't know if I would be the epitome of success yet, but those three things are remembering who you are, investing in yourself, and really finding a good mentor or a partner to help you get where you need to go.
I love those three things, and it just is so fitting to see so many in the room and so many joining virtually, because I would argue that all of you here in person or online is tapping a little bit into that 3% today, coming and learning something new and hearing from others and taking today to invest in yourself. So that's great. Michelle, the next question is up for you. You've been passionate about ensuring your personal brand and making sure that it's authentic and true to who you are rather than simply fitting in to the status quo when it comes to traditional or standard marketing or industry expectations. So how has this transformed your journey and why is that so important to you?
Well, I think it's something that doesn't need to be said. It's a personal brand. It's me. So I get to dictate what people see, how they receive me, what they think, majority of the time, because people have their own thoughts. But if it's up to me, I'm going to be the one to tell you, no, this is who I am. And if you're willing to listen and to connect with me on a human level, then it's something that we all as humans should be participating in. So for me, it's gravely important for me to be who I am. It's my skin, it's my body, it's the life that God gave me. And so trying to get closer to that every single day, especially in a world that tells you who you are, what to look like, how to wear your hair, especially in a professional environment, being a double minority, people tell you how to dress as a woman and showing too much cleavage or, not being too stylish or how to wear my hair as a Black woman and how that's professional or what's not professional. And so it's important for me to stay true to who I am because it's who I was born to be.
I will add on to that quickly before we move on. That's sometimes can be easier said than done, right? How I guess easy or difficult at times has that been?
Extremely difficult. There's layers to being a person. You grow up in a family, and so you are identified as the sister, or your position in children. Like I'm the sixth child of five boys. I'm the only girl, so you're the baby, and you're the only girl, and then you grow up, and I'm also an immigrant. My parents were originally from Haiti, so Haitian Creole was my first language. So in school, I was the little Haitian girl that needed to go back on a banana boat. And so you have all these things that get attached to you as you grow up in life, as you experience life. And being able to claim your own identity is an active practice. It's something that you have to work on every single day because you have a million things coming at you at the same time telling you what to think, how to act, how to be received well. If you want to get this job, then you have to assimilate to this. And it's just so many things constantly happening day in, day out, minute by minute. And so it's an active practice.
Thank you for sharing. Katie, you're up next. And you'll all notice that a common theme or common trend in a lot of what we're talking about is authenticity today. And Katie, you've been passionate about finding your authentic self. You work with students doing that every single day. Can you share more about your journey and how it's important and why it's important for people to find their authentic selves as part of their brand?
Sure. So my experiences are a little bit different than either of yours. I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, and just to set the stage, there were no cell phones, there was no internet, there were no fax machines or copy machines. Different experiences in the public school system as well. As a young girl, we weren't allowed to wear pants to school. Girls took home ec, boys took shop. Expectations for careers were drastically different. Also during this time, though, some good things were happening and we were experiencing a lot of change within this country. Gloria Steinem was leading what was really the second wave of feminism in our country. We were trying to break glass ceilings, although I'll say that reflecting back, not a whole lot of glass ceilings were broken during that time, but we were trying. But the biggest one for me was Title IX, which came into being in the 70s and was really transformational for me because it allowed me to do things that only boys were allowed to do prior to that. And so I was able to play football and basketball and baseball and learn all the things that you learn from participating in team sports about competition and teamwork and supporting one another. And so these were all really good things. But the bottom line is, it was kind of a confusing time with a lot of mixed messaging going out there, particularly to young girls and women. So if we kind of flash forward to my career, I was very fortunate to have my first career position in a company where the leadership really valued women. And in the 80s, this wasn't always the case. And the CEO of this company saw something in me and took me under his wing and gave me a lot of opportunities that I probably would not have had in other places. I thought I would stay with that company for the life of my career. Being a boomer, we stick, right? But ultimately, it became obvious that the company was for sale, and so a lot of us became nervous. And so with one of my colleagues in the company, we decided to take our future into our own hands, raise the venture capital, and set out to open our own company. As we were thinking about founding a company, we spent a lot of time talking about what do we want the environment to look like. And we became enamored with a book called The Customer Comes Second, written by Hal Rosenbluth. And Hal Rosenbluth had a small travel agency in the Dakotas, and his philosophy was, I'm going to put all my energy into my employees, and then I'll think about my customers. And the reasoning behind this was, if you take good care of your employees, you provide them with a good opportunity to earn a living, with benefits, with learning opportunities, advancement opportunities. If you do all of these things, they'll turn around and take good care of your customers. And that, in fact, proved to be true for Rosenbluth Travel. And so we said, we want our company to look like that. We want to take care of our employees so that they take great care of our customers. And then we added on to that, and we thought, well, we also kind of want our employees to think like us, to think and act like owners. And so then we stepped back and said, it just still doesn't feel right. And really what it was, are we just giving lip service to our employees? And so what we decided to do was set aside a portion of the company to give to the employees, and we founded the organization with an ESOP, an employee stock ownership program. So every person who worked for us was indeed an owner and had that reason to make difficult decisions for the long-term health of the organization. Now, when you form your own company, you have the opportunity to create the environment in which you want to work. And so this philosophy of the customer comes second worked really well with my personal beliefs, and was really the first time that I had the opportunity to think about what does it mean to be Katie Abbey in the professional environment, and how do I want people to view me, and what kind of opportunities do I want to give others. And so we built this company that was that really valued supporting one another, being respectful in the workplace, providing opportunity to other people, and lifting others up. And that philosophy has carried me throughout the life of my career and here into the David Eccles School of Business, where I'm seeing a lot of wonderful people on our team who do the same thing every day.
That's great. I want to work for that company. No, I love my company. It's on camera. Love my company. That's great. Thank you so much. So I've got a couple questions I want to serve up to the panelists for the time we have. And although the questions will be directed towards each of you, any panelists, feel free to chime in and add to the topic. But Leanna, we'll start with you. In your intro question, you talked a little bit about mentorship and partnership and building that network. So I want to dive in a little deeper with you. You've talked before about how mentorship can really boost your personal brand, and how it's important to really invest in those partnerships, leverage the School of Business alumni and the network that we have here. So dive a little bit deeper into that and how that mentorship is so helpful.
I heard someone speak once that said every single individual should have your own board of directors. Your own board of directors. So someone in a career field that you look up to, someone outside in a different industry, someone who's a personal, so that when these hard things happen in life, that you kind of have someone else as a guiding star. It's not just you, because sometimes we are emotional creatures, meaning any human, when things happen to us or shake or change our landscape, sometimes we're blinded by what we see because of how we feel. And it's funny because one of my board of directors members is my Uncle Frank. And my Uncle Frank, very smart man, very different. He was a senior vice president of global sales for Clorox. So very, very educated, very experienced. And there's so many times that I've called him on the phone, whether it was a job offer or an option to, partner with another company. And the questions that he asked me just were not questions I asked myself. And so I felt like I was better educated in making decisions because I had a different frame of view from somebody that I trusted a lot. We had a shakeup at our firm just a little while ago, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like, do I stay? Do I go? What do I do? And I called 3 people, and I knew those 3 people immediately of who would help me navigate through this. All of their answers came the same. I'm still at Buckner, great company, but I was very torn. And I think that happens in life a lot, that we kind of, the wind may shift or move what we originally had planned. And in those moments, your personal board of the people that you trust and can be open with, even on your salary, on a position, on another company, and your network. I always say it's small lake city. I know there's people probably all over, maybe the world watching this, but the network's really, really small. And I think sometimes doing that one extra step and making that call to a personal board is huge. I also think mentorship's huge. I think giving back is even bigger. And I think half the time I get more out of it than the student or employee that I'm mentoring. So I think it's just this constant cycle. I'm a huge believer in karma. And I think, when you put good in, good will come out.
I'll tell you, when we were sitting in the green room preparing for this, immediately when these 3 women walked in, we were all like, you know so-and-so, and you know her too, and how did you, and immediately it's almost like we feel connected. And so when you do that with your network, I think it's pretty profound. I would love a show of hands. Who already has like a personal board of directors, like Leanna's talking about? Who has your core group of people you call for things? Okay, a good about half, 3/4. Okay, good. I can't see you online, but I assume you're doing the virtual hand wave thing, okay, on Zoom. All right, Michelle, you obviously already talked about your personal brand, and you went a little deeper there with your first question, but expound more on how you've talked about being okay with the fact that your personal self may not fit the standard of marketing. And we all, I assume, know what that standard looks and feels like, but why is it so important to be okay with not fitting that?
I think that's a double-edged sword, right? So being okay with it on one side means that there's no representation if I don't see myself in things, and no one should be okay if they walk into an environment or see something that is made for the world and only see a type of individual. And then you have the side in which I have become very comfortable with, of like just being who I am. It is a part of my personal brand to wear Jordans with dresses and skirts. Like it's a thing. I'm a tomboy. I grew up in a house with all guys. I was not the pretty princess my mom dreamed of having. And so, and so I think at a very young age, I became very comfortable with who I was and just saying, oh, I don't care if I look like Blanca. Anybody? Street Fighter? Any fans? Yeah, my hair was wild and crazy and I didn't care. So as I got older, it was like a muscle that I had to flex because as you get older, you start to experience real life being an adult and trying to get a job, and so you feel like you have to assimilate to a certain professional standard to be able to get a job. And then when you get in the job, it's like, well, we hired you because you have a bubbly personality, and but can you tone it down? It's just you're too happy in the morning. Like, it's just, it's like, okay, well, I got hired, and so those things where you start to self-evaluate and be like, okay, well, am I doing a little too much? Am I too bubbly? Am I too expressive? Okay, maybe I need to start working on how I say things and my tone of voice. And so you start to get really, really critical with self-analyzing yourself all the time, to where subconsciously you just assimilate. You do what helps you to be able to just get the job done, or to just be able to be out in the world, and you feel stifled. You feel stuck in a box. And after a while, you just have to decide, do you want to be who you are? Do you want to live your life, or do you want others to be able to dictate that for you? And so when you make that decision, it's a personal decision that you have to make when you look in the mirror, that you're comfortable with who you are at the end of the day. And when you wake up in the morning, you have to be okay with going to sleep with who you are. And so at night, you can't hide from anything. Work is not there, your emails are not there, your friends, your partners. At the end of the day, everyone has that moment where they're by themselves and they're evaluating their life for them. And that's the moment you have to be able to dive deep in and determine, are you going to be yourself, or are you going to be who others want you to be?
I'd love to hear from the other two panelists of how you keep that voice, I guess, in check, or keep that tendency to want to assimilate or feel that pull and rein yourself back in and say, nope, this is who I am.
Okay. Well, first, Michelda, I would have killed for somebody to say, you're too happy in the morning, change that. Because they used to say to me, you're too intimidating, stop that. And I think yours was a much more positive message. For me, it was an evolution over time. Many years I tried to change the way I behaved in the workplace to fit whatever the norms were of the moment. And every time I tried to do something that was not authentic to me, it just flat out didn't work. And over time, you realize, why do I keep doing the same thing over and over and over again? And you just become yourself. Now, I was, of course, very fortunate. I worked for myself. And so you can create the environment that's accepting of yourself at the same time. But I think that's the advice I give to people is don't be so hard on yourself. If you try something and it doesn't feel right, just change it.
Oh, this is a good one. This is a good question. So I'm originally from Honolulu, Hawaii, and I've been in Utah longer than I grew up in Hawaii. And I always keep thinking back to my culture and some of the foundational things that shaped me to who I am today. And it sounds so cliche, and my kids will laugh when I tell them about what I'm going to share with you. But that song in Moana, I Am Moana, there are sometimes I just play that. But I am Leanna. Yeah. And I will belt that out. And remembering, like, again, where you came from, I grew up in very, very humble beginnings. And so part of me, I think when you get into a place of leadership, where I'm so blessed that I am in a place of leadership, to remember where I was in the journey, where maybe my employees are, right? Am I advocating for them? Am I being supportive? Do they know that I'm their cheerleader? Because that's what I had growing up, right? With some of my mentors. And so I think remembering who you are, and there's little things like poor Riley today, I know this is probably against HR, but I'm a hugger because in Hawaii, we hug and we kiss. That's what we do. And so sometimes I just bring it in and I'll fold my arms. I'm like, they're not a hugger, but, and I'll just fold my arms. But that's something that I like to do when I see people or I meet someone. I really enjoy doing that because that's how I was greeted in the business arena in Hawaii. And so there's little things that I do here and there. Hawaii, we're all about, we were at Silicon Slopes the other day, and some of my friends from Hawaii were up here. And I'm like, you can spot the Polynesians because he had a backpack on, and everyone he met, he gave macadamia nuts to. And I said, Kenny, where are my macadamia nuts? He goes, well, I know you. And I'm like, I should get two. So it's just that spirit of aloha. And I try really hard that anytime I leave a room or a meeting, that people feel that warmth from me. And it made me not chocolate macadamia. I should have brought some. That would have been on point for my personal
She should have
brand.
brought some.
But when she said Girl Scouts, I'm like, where are the Thin Mints? But something like that people recognize you for. And so I hope that, my example or certain meetings, I love to send thank you notes. I don't do them all the time, but I try really hard to remember to be grateful, because that's what I was growing up with. Be grateful for everything you have. So that's like one little thing. And here and there, you have your board to reel you back in. My best board, I always say I've had the CMO title for the last 11 years, Chief Mommy Officer. There is no one who will put me in line like my 11-year-old daughter. She will just call me out. And it's good sometimes because I need that check every now and again. Like, Mom, what are you doing? And I'm like, what am I doing? So I think it's good. Just remember the little things, and little things are the big things.
Well, my daughter's 7 and she's already there. So I don't know what's going on with my kid. But I love that, Leanna. In that same vein, I feel like I've tried to brand myself as a hard worker, right? I mean, I always say I might not be the smartest. I might not know everything, but gosh darn it, I'm going to overcome it by working twice as hard. And, one example of that, when I used to work in news, I was on camera, so I was a reporter, but they've got the photographers and they have to pull the cables and lug the tripod and whatever. And I was always helping to carry the tripod and to raise the mast on the live truck. And they're like, nobody else does that. When it's done, the reporters just leave. And I said, look, you can do your job without me. I know I cannot do my job without you. And it's like those little things as to what you were saying kind of, go a long way. So thank you for sharing that. Katie, this question is for you. We've talked pretty high level and some strategy and some best practices for how to build, develop, maintain your personal brand. But for those who are here or who might be watching who think, okay, I hear you, but how do I literally do it? Like, what are the practical steps to do this? And you've got some great practical step-by-step guides for, like, what are the takeaways you all can go home and implement today for this?
Sure. So first, it's not rocket science, but it is difficult. And it's challenging because it's something that you have to commit to really for your life. And it requires a lot of time. And so the first step that I recommend is that people take the time to do a lot of introspection and figure out who you are. So who am I? How do I want others to see me? What are my values? What are my skills? Things like that. And write down notes about the things that define you. But then in the next step, you have to take it further and reflect upon situations that demonstrated these skills or attributes that you think that you possess. And these stories are really the stories of your life, and they can be personal things, they can be things that happen in the workplace, they can be little things, big things, negative, positive, it doesn't matter. But these are the stories of your life and the things that have formed the person that is you. Once you have a good selection of these stories, you want to take the time to look them over and see if you can spot patterns or consistencies, because these patterns and consistencies speak to your personal brand and the person that you are. Now, once you've sort of identified a brand for yourself, then you need to think about how that brand plays out in a variety of situations, right? Because there may be times when your brand is in conflict with your corporate brand. Your brand may be in conflict with your colleague's brand. And you have to be able to adjust a little bit depending on the situation. But I caution you to be careful about the adjustments. So if you think about your personal brand like a fall line, do we have skiers or snowboarders in the audience? So, if we were to stand at the top of Snowbird and roll a ball down or a rock down the hill, that's the fall line, the direction that stone will travel. And if you think about your personal brand as a fall line, and how skiers or snowboarders go down the mountain, unless you're a crazy lunatic, you don't go straight down the fall line, you tend to bounce back and forth, right, across the fall line. And so when you find yourself in a situation where you're in conflict with someone else, think about how you can flex your personal brand just a little bit so that you're never too far away from your fall line, but you're there and finding the opportunity for better collaboration and consensus with the people that you're working with or that you're friends with or in your family situation. Now, you can leave it there, or you can take it farther and create some brand messaging. I mean, social media is huge these days. And so you want to think about things like, how do I want to dress and act in public and treat other people, and create blog posts or social media posts and so on. The key here is to just be consistent with your brand. Again, never straying too far from the fall line. And then I guess the final thing I would say is make sure that whatever you decide upon, like whoever I am, that it's something that you can hang on to for the long term. I know that I am not the same person I was when I was 25 years old. In general, my basic core is the same, but you grow and you develop and you change. So you don't want to lock yourself into a personal brand that is rigid and can't flex as time goes on.
That's great. Okay, we're like right on schedule. So I do want to open this up for audience questions. Riley, do we have someone monitoring online as well, or?
We do, and
Okay, great.
so we will have those in a moment. Who here has a question for our panelists?
I mean, I do have
Anyone?
some that I can ask because I'm prepared like that, but we would love to hear
It
from
looks like
you.
we've got one over here, if you don't mind sharing your name.
Hi, my name is Ashley Cleveland. I am just wondering because, our state is growing at a really rapid pace. As you guys have talked about your personal brands and how we, are creating more room for other people to grow and be themselves, how do you see that happening over the next 5 years with more people coming in? How do you see mentorship happening? How do you see this conversation evolving?
That's a good question. A couple things, there's fear-based feelings, and I feel like a lot of people, when things change, they get scared, right? Oh, all this is happening, and there's these new companies, and now there's all this competition, and I can't buy a house, and there's all this fear around it. And I would say, instead of being pessimistic, be optimistic and say, gosh, what is coming to the state? I don't need to go to San Francisco to go hang out at Facebook or Meta, sorry, or Google, or that there's so much opportunity here. And I also think that diversifies our pool, which is so great. I serve on a couple boards in the state, and I'm so amazed. I'm like, where'd you come from? And I'm like, oh my gosh, New York, San Francisco. And all of a sudden, my reach has exponentially grown right here at home. Right? I think too, even with a little shout out to the School of Business, how many people are flying in to come to school here? They're choosing us. And so in return, to be open and available to make those new connections and to network with different people. I always say I serve on the board for Health Center Theater, and I am not a theater, I am now, but at the time they asked me, and I'm like, I have never seen one of your shows. And they're like, we want you. We want people like you to represent the group of people that have never been. And so again, I think putting yourself in different situations and to stretch a little bit away from the norm is only going to benefit you. It's only going to benefit you.
Yeah, I would say that a part of your personal brand is owning who you are. That means it allows other people to be free to do the same thing. And so as we move into the next 3 to 5 years of growing Salt Lake or Utah, I think that's going to be a key component to it, is allowing others the right to be who they are. And so I think that's the one thing we all need to get on the same page about, is if we're talking about personal brand, that means someone else has the right to be able to shape that in the way that they desire. And as a community, we should allow people the space to be able to do that. Now, that's one of those things that is easier said than done, but the great thing about us being humans is that we're dynamic. We can evolve and change and grow and progress quicker than any other species in the world. And so we're capable, but we don't have to apply the skill set and the education and things that we do have as a person, limited to just our jobs, limited to just our families, limited to just, the community that we serve. We can actually be that to each other. So I think that's what it looks like in the next 3 to 5 years.
Anything to add, Katie?
I mean, well said, ladies. I love all of it. I agree. When I first moved here more than 30 years ago, it was difficult to find my place in Utah. But things continue to get better and better, and I really welcome the diversity and the number of people who are moving into our state and the businesses that are moving into our state.
That's great. Do we have another question?
Abigail, who is streaming from YouTube, asks, what has been your largest challenge in building your personal brand, and what advice would you give people experiencing the same thing?
I think on this one, Abigail, look at the camera, is finding your voice. I work in a very heavily male-dominated industry, and in the beginning, I was the only female executive in the room, ethnic as well. And so getting that confidence and building that and finding your voice, I think over time is going to be one of your most insane superpower characteristics to have. So I would say finding your voice and leaning into it.
Hi, Abigail. Thanks for joining us today. That was a really great question. I think that there are so many difficulties. Like you said, there is a fear-based outlook when it comes to people just being who they are. Like I didn't choose to be born Black, or the texture of my hair being grown out, my scalp the way that it is. There are things that are unique and different about people that make it challenging for people to accept who you are, whether it's your tone of voice, the clothes you decide to wear, whether you want to be girly or not girly, whether you're super masculine or, what's the new stuff going on these days? I don't, the world is developing, and there's so many different shades. There's so many different varieties of things. If we look at Utah, being the most beautiful state that I have ever been to, with just the different landscapes, the different flowers, trees, way that grass grows, it don't grow like that. The God, y'all know the struggle. Be sitting up there with fake grass because Utah just don't want to get their life together. But but there's just so much diversity in how God created the world, and we often limit that to marketing has a big part of that. Has shaped how we see the world, but you're going to encounter difficulties because everyone has a different walk of life. So to anticipate that you will never have a different thought from someone else is just not the good way to go about something. You're going to encounter what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my Lord, starts with a C. Oh, don't know. You're going to encounter. Thank you.
Challenges.
I was like, it's really not that difficult of a world, too.
And now I'm a mind reader, by the way.
Challenges. You're going to encounter challenges because not everyone thinks the same. Not everyone comes from the same walk of life. And so to see that as a challenge, I don't see it, but some people see it as a challenge. I see it as an opportunity to be able to learn more, expand my network, to be able to learn and grow, experience different things. One active practice I can try to say for you to do is, read books, dive into things that are different. Go and explore different things outside of your norm. Like, you have to choose to expose yourself to different opportunities because they're not just going to fall in your lap. So don't be lazy when it comes to your life. Experience different things by deciding to go out and experience different things.
I will add one thing to that. As someone who has also had challenges in terms of personal brand and making sure that the alignment is what it needs to be. One way I've navigated that, and for those who know me, Deb, I see you. I know one person in here. I am the complete opposite of like the boomer. We stay at one job for 30 years. I mean, I have had so many different jobs. It's almost ridiculous, but for me, I've been able to navigate those branding and alignment challenges. They say like water just takes the path of least resistance. So I've just chosen to switch jobs and switch opportunities quite often to find that office or that team or that, specifically work environment that better aligns with what my brand is or what I want it to be. So I think professionally speaking, that might be one way to navigate some of those challenges as well. I'm not sure if there's another question in here, but I have one that I came prepared with. This was from an attendee. I don't know who wanted to ask this, but I think this is great to address on. This person asks, is it better to brand yourself as a specialist, right? Like, I am an expert in this thing, and I crush it at that. Or is it better to brand yourself as a generalist? Hey, I can do a little bit of everything in that field. So how do you find ways to build genuine connections in your field rather than just sort of surface level networking? And do you have thoughts on the specialist generalist concept?
Okay. The classic "it depends" answer is what comes to mind. I think that there is a lot of value to being a specialist. The problem comes in when you want to pivot, or you do something like I did and you sell your company, and then all anybody ever wants you to do is the exact same thing over and over and over again. So you can find yourself kind of stuck in a corner, so to speak. So the key, if you brand yourself as a specialist, is to understand the skills that you've developed while becoming a specialist, and then figure out how those skills can apply to other jobs, other industries, and so forth. There is also great value in being a generalist, in that you have a wide variety of skills that can be applied in a wide variety of locations. So I think, my recommendation to people would be to take it situation by situation and determine which positioning is going to work the best for you.
I agree. It's so weird because I feel like I'm a unicorn in insurance, and so I would say I'm a specialist, but really I'm a generalist. And I was telling the ladies, I actually read an article yesterday that Bill Gates talked about generalist versus specialist, and what he said was that he said Microsoft was built with a team of generalists, not specialists. And I thought, oh my gosh, way more breadth of experience. He said they had diverse experience in interdisciplinary thinking across his teams. And so I think that's very powerful, right? If you go into a room and everybody looks like you and everybody has the same focus as you, you might not have that diversity of thought. So I would say I think you could almost be both sometimes. And I think if you're smart, I know a couple people with like 20 degrees within a 4-year degree, right? They have all these minors and everything, they do everything. And then I know people that said, I'm going to stick with this one thing, and they'll branch out or get a certificate here or there, but that they're more specialized, I would say, in their type of marketing. Even in marketing, right? Are you do advertising? Are you in branding? Are you in design? Are you in product packaging? Are you in, there's so many different alignments, and that's why I have a team, right? And so also knowing that you will not know everything, and the smart leaders will be, let's bring the best expert on that team, and then you learn from them. So I kind of say same probably as Katie Abby.
I would say branding yourself as a specialist just really limits you to be able to evolve and move on to something else if you decide to be able to do that. I think a specialist also is subjective, because a specialist in marketing 20 years ago and a specialist in marketing today is, if you don't know nothing about social media, you're not a specialist. And so I think that it's subjective to scenario-based position. What a project based, like, it's very situational, I would say, when it comes to specialists. And most people are generalists, because you think about your first job that you had and the skill sets that you had then to now 20, 15 years later, those same skill sets and things that you learned are things that built the foundation to what you're able to have an outlook on in your current role. So all of us are generalists in some way, shape, or form. So I would say go with being a generalist, because you can offer more services to support your community. So
Great.
I actually have a question. Because you all have amazing careers and very diverse. Annie, you mentioned that you've switched jobs and switched companies, switched industries, from like news, nonprofit, for-profit. And Katie, you mentioned like getting stuck. So my question for all of you is, how has your personal brand opened up opportunities for you to pivot or get unstuck or move or shift?
Oh, this is a good one. I'll be quick because we don't have a ton of time, because it'd be like an hour story. But so before, when I was going to school here, I was actually on the marketing team for Channel 7. So I worked, I didn't even tell you that when we were talking about television. But I worked for PBS, and my direct report had been there for like 15 years. She was never going to go anywhere. And she was like, there was only one line up, and she was there. And I'm like, I'm never going to be there. She'll never leave. And I got a job offer right after I graduated college to be the marketing manager. So I was a marketing assistant at PBS. And I met Yanni. I met, there was cool things for PBS, and I loved it. #1 trusted television station in America. And I got an offer to be a marketing manager for a cleanup company. So I was working on sets, doing all the binders and all the orders for all of our viewership, across the state, literally to marketing mold and fire cleanup. And people are like, how did you do that? And because I knew the opportunity to advance was there. And somehow, in this crazy tornado of my life, somehow I went from a cleanup company to a workers' compensation company, then to an insurance broker. And when I said I was a unicorn, they're probably like, what is she talking about? I've worked in every aspect of insurance, essentially. And a lot of people don't have that, where they worked in a claims situation and then for the actual insurance company and then for an agency. And insurance is not sexy. No one wants to work in insurance. Let me tell you, we did a student day where you could meet people in the field, and they had someone that did marketing for the Utah Jazz, someone that did marketing for Adobe, and this girl. And there was no line on my table. Nobody wanted to talk to the insurance girl. And I'm looking across to the two people that I knew. I knew Joe, I knew Eric. I'm the one who lined them up to come speak. And I'm like, they had 30 kids trying to talk to them. I'm like, listen up. They sit in a cubicle all day. They're doing spreadsheets all day. I just went to London with my company. We wrote the insurance for Team USA. Like, we do cool things. And what's unique about that is it's an untapped, now everyone's gonna be applying for insurance after this, but it was unheard of. Like, no one really thought to go there. And so what's really interesting about personal brand is I've been able to help insurance be a little cooler, I think. If you look at it against our competitors, I think we're way cooler. But again, it allowed me to infuse something in an industry that didn't exist. And so I have been very grateful for that insurance kind of journey that I've been on. Very grateful.
I forgot to do the on. Sorry, Riley. Thanks. I actually got my bachelor's in broadcast journalism, which is cool. I started off doing social media for a small film company in Miami, Florida. And did I know what I was doing? I just knew I liked to talk to people. I loved the way my voice sounded when, we visited this art center one time when I was like in elementary school, and I'm like, what am I gonna get my degree in? And in the Haitian culture, you get a government job, or you're in the military, or you get like a corporate job. To us islanders, Caribbean folks, art is not an actual job. You can't pay bills. You can't take care of a family that you don't have. Like, you don't have family, but you need to think about being able to provide for a family. So that's how it started for me. I had no idea that I was going to transition into being good at branding or messaging, or, like, as you said, there's so many different subcategories in marketing. I had no idea, let alone me starting a creative agency that would help impact businesses versus worrying about the bottom line. I had no idea it was going to morph into what it is today. But one of the things that I was really consistent on was that I wanted to be able to create access points for people. And I realized that throughout my career, working at American Express or working at Gateway, what was the consistent thing that I always did? I was the person who developed the onboarding training because it wasn't efficient enough. I was like, this is not going to work. And I was that type of person. And I started to identify those key things that were aligned with who I was. And that has been consistent from no matter what job, no matter where I work, whether it was McDonald's, 7-Eleven. I always was working 3 jobs at one time to put myself through college. And some people understand that. And so that was the thing that was consistent, was that Michelda always wants to help. And how does she decide to be able to help is creating access points, creating resources, creating opportunities for people to be able to develop themselves professionally. I just chose to do that in the creative space. And so helping businesses, that's just something that I've been doing for a really long time. So I think it's one of those things that it takes time for you to figure out, but it's just be consistent with figuring out who you are as a person at the end of the day, I would say.
Okay, excellent. I'll be very brief. Really, the only person limiting us is us, and everyone has a great skill set, and those skills are transferable. So if you put in the work and think about what you're good at and how it can apply across the board, you can do anything you want.
That's great. Okay, so as the moderator, my personal brand is sticking to time. So we are going to, thank you. Thank you. So we're going to do just final thoughts. I want, 30, 45 seconds, maybe a minute answer, just the final thought or piece of advice or that one takeaway you want every single audience member to walk away with today from this panel about their brand.
That's pressure, time, and one thing. Okay, you're your most valuable asset. So remember that 3%. Did it shut us off? Oh no, there I am, Beyonce, right up here. Invest in yourself, in your brand. If there's something that you don't know, learn it. Read. There's a statistic out there that said if you read an hour a day, 7 hours a week, that's a book a week. 52 books a year. And what that interest of that tweaking of your personal brand, the more you learn and the more you're exposed to, you can fine tune that brand and it will be a killer brand. So invest in yourself, 3%, compound learning, compound interest.
I would say final thoughts would be when it comes to developing your personal brand, I mean, it has the word in there, it's personal. It has to be something that you choose for yourself. And you don't have to have a personal brand if you don't want to, in the now sense of needing to show it on social media or on your LinkedIn posts and things. Like, if it's not your thing, it's not your thing, but you have to know it's not your thing and be okay with it not being your thing, So I would say just it's an active practice. It's a muscle that you have to build. And as life goes on, life events happen, that will change. The desire for things may subside or it might become greater. So be fluid when it comes to learning who you are, discovering new parts of yourself, and just put yourself out there and learn new things and see if it works for you or not.
Well, as I look out in the audience, I see a group of people, and every single one of you has a skill set, a set of attributes that are unique to just you. And you all bring value to everything you do, whether it's an employer or your personal life. And so I would just recommend that you go forth with confidence because we need you out there. And don't forget to be kind to one another.
Okay, I think that wraps it up. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. Everyone, please please join me in thanking this wonderful panel. Thank you all for joining us today. This has been tremendous. Thank you everyone who's participated here in person and online. This wraps up our Alumni Forum speaker series for this year, but let me just give out a teaser right now. We are already heavily involved in planning all of next year's. They are going to be incredible. This is not something you're going to want to miss out on. So we look forward to seeing you in October for the Alumni Forum series. And as we heard today, it is so important to invest in your alumni network, invest in yourself. Leanna, we spoke, a couple days ago, and I went out and bought new hiking shoes and whatnot because I was like, I'm going to invest in myself this summer. I'm going to go hiking, and Leanna inspired me. So thank you. Already putting it to the test. So again, thank you so much. And as always, go Utes.